Our society has been irreversibly changed by COVID, the restrictions, and the lockdown. Even if we pull all of these restrictions back, even as we watch Democrat states start to say, okay, we're not going to do this anymore because the polling is bad, these changes, well, they're permanent. The needle has been moved. And now we have what I'll just say is one of the freakiest stories I've ever seen. Substitute teachers, bus drivers, amid staff shortages. The National Guard takes on unexpected missions. The Guard has never served or been involved in this number of roles, support missions, a spokesman said. That's right. It started with the National Guard being sent in to drive school buses. I thought that was fairly alarming. A lot of people on the left, the establishment, they were just like, that's what the National Guard does. In fact, I had many people even mentioning to me saying, Tim, the National Guard is supposed to fill in these roles. That's what they do in times of emergency. Do you want to live in a country where the National Guard is doing core functions for your city, states, government? What I mean by that is we as civilians, we're supposed to be running things. We're supposed to be building and growing things. And the military is for our defense. The National Guard is, within reason, supposed to be for our defense. I understand why they would come in to fill certain jobs, but it gets pretty dark, in my opinion, when you have public schools, when you have school buses, when you have the National Guard teaching our children, and, consider this, when they have purged the military of wrong thinkers. So it's not just the National Guard. I mean, it's every branch requiring mandatory vaccination, which means those who are more independent or liberty-minded are going to be kicked out, those who don't fall in line, and those who have political opinions which challenge the system. Because we've already heard that people who have, say, Gadsden flags in their profiles are being investigated and even reassigned on their missions. When the National Guard was deployed to D.C., there was reporting that some of these National Guardsmen who were down there got pulled because they had Gadsden flag imagery in their Facebook profile. And that's not the only story. Do you want a homogenized and purged National Guard teaching your children? Do you want the government overtly teaching your children in public schools? Because you know what this sounds like to me? It sounds like what they do in, North Korea. It sounds like what they do in communist China. Government agents directly teaching your children. Oh, but it's because nobody wants to be a teacher anymore. I suppose when you don't pay teachers all that much, I suppose when you have a government encroachment into our schooling system that causes this decay, all of a sudden you have the solution. I went to a private Catholic school for a few years for up until I finished 5th grade, and then 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I went to a public school. I certainly think there is a great value in private schools. My personal opinion, having experienced both, is that the private schools are obviously better for a lot of reasons. But even though my family was paying tuition at a private school, they still had to pay taxes for the public school. The government then gets a hold of the public schools, destroys them, and then sends in National Guardsmen, purges the ranks of these military branches. I don't think this sounds good. The Wall Street Journal reports, when Simon Hammond signed up for the National Guard in New Mexico nearly 3 years ago, he hoped to gain some new experiences and challenges. He never imagined he would be teaching 8th grade algebra. It's worked out, but did I expect it? Absolutely not. Totally crazy with COVID. Everything's crazy. Over the National Guard's centuries-long history, members have often found themselves called on in emergencies as part of the state and national response to overseas missions, natural disasters, or disturbances. But during the pandemic, as COVID-19 absences and other staffing shortages have strained schools, government, and business, the Guard's job description has expanded into roles that many members never thought they'd be filling. And quite honestly, I don't think they should be allowed to fill. In New Mexico, Guard members serve as substitute teachers. In New York, they help care for elderly patients in nursing homes. In Massachusetts, they have driven school buses. Governor Charlie Baker called them a godsend. I'm telling you where this goes. Here's what I think when I see this. Not that I have any great clairvoyance or foresight or anything like that, to be completely honest, but I look at this and I'm wondering if there's a future where we have UBI, Universal Basic Income, everyone's given a flat fee, and then you have the National Guard, the military, servicing the people and providing core functions. So eventually they're going to say, we don't have enough plumbers. Send in the National Guard. We don't have enough carpenters. Send in the National Guard. It's the government seizing of the private sector. Eventually, there won't be private practices. They will be gutted. You see what happens. Let's slow down here a little bit. You see what happens last year, the year before. Small mom and pop shops are shut down. Police officers with smiles on their faces put a boot on the neck of small business owners. And then we see big box stores, Amazon, Walmart, Target. Oh, they're allowed to remain open. I recall that story from North Jersey, where the woman was live streaming products to be sold at her store. And the police showed up and said, ma'am, you have to close your store. And she says, what are you talking about? We are closed. And the cop said, no, you're filming things and putting them on Facebook. She was live streaming. And she was flabbergasted. Wait, like the store is closed. She's just filming things she owns. And the police came and threatened her with smiles on their faces, putting the boot on her neck. Those cops should be prosecuted for some kind of crime. I don't know. Because you can't just go as an individual and shake someone down like that. But that's what they did, and under no real law. So where does that all lead to? Well, it may be that Democrats fear they're going to lose in November, but not that I think Republicans will do anything. Republicans are a speed bump. So maybe they're pulling back on these restrictions, not just because they fear the polls, or maybe not because they fear the polls, but maybe the issue is the rat hope experiment, right? You can't just radically alter society overnight. It has to be done incrementally. And when you put undue strain on the rat, for instance, the man, it was the Curtis Richter or whatever the guy's name was. He put rats in a tube where they could not hold on to anything, and they swam for 15 minutes before giving up and dying. But then he took the rats out, dried them off, the next batch, and placed them back in. After experiencing being saved, they swam for 60 hours thinking, if I can just hold on a little bit longer. And is that what's happening? The Democrats' polling isn't showing they're going to lose because the Republicans won't do anything about it anyway. The Republicans are going to be a speed bump. But the Democrats in the establishment, the political establishment, the corporate elites, they realize we've strained and stressed the population too much, and they're ready to explode. Slow things down a little bit. Let the polls rebalance out. These stupid people will completely forget who put the boot on their neck. And then once they're ready to re-vote for these same people, we put the boot on their neck again. Where does this lead us to? A future in which there are no small businesses. A future in which, well, it's your own fault. Your business was destroyed. They shut it down. Mask mandates, vax mandates. Business is already declining because of these policies. We've heard business owners say over and over again that 30% reduction in revenues because of the vaccine mandates. I went to a restaurant, a sushi restaurant, and they're like, you have to wear a mask. But nobody was wearing a mask. Seriously. And then I said, you want me to wear a mask for 3 seconds to then sit down? And they were like, yes. Bye-bye. I'm not doing it. I won't. But when people are willing to comply with this stuff, ultimately what I see happening is these small businesses will be destroyed by themselves. They're destroying themselves. Many businesses have racked up mass amounts of fines. And what do we see with Attila's Gym? Well, the people who own and run Attila's are being fined, having their money seized, or being criminally charged. The system, it wants to change, or I should say, they want it to change, whether you like it or not. I take a look at the National Guard driving buses and teaching in schools, and I tell you this: we are headed towards North Korea. There will be no private sector businesses. It will be distribution. UBI. Well, when there's no private sector businesses, and I'm not saying it'll happen soon, maybe it'll take 20, 30 years, but if we continue on this path, that's where we're going. With universal basic income, you'll be given a set amount of money to spend. The government will have a set amount of goods for you to buy. Hey, that sounds like communism, or at least every attempt at communism so far. Military, National Guard will be providing core services. Need a plumber? Just call the old National Guard. Need a teacher? Well, it's the military who does that for your children. If you want to serve your country, you should join up. Is this really where we're going? Yo, I think these schools should shut down before they do this. But you know what happens is all incremental. Because it's just one minor change. Says, look, it's just because it's an emergency. Well, what happens when in the next few years they say, we've done this all the time. We had the National Guard service teachers years ago. What are you complaining about? This is normal. New normal. The Great Reset. Call it what you want. Here we have teachers teaching in schools. And I will stress this point one more time before I show you these other stories. We have teachers who are National Guardsmen, but the National Guard is being purged of wrongthink. We are seeing hardcore indoctrination that is reminiscent, indicative of communism. Now, I don't know that will ultimately succeed. I'm just saying, look at this photo that I'm showing right here. You got this guy, U.S. Army, it says, Hammond, and he's teaching an 8th grade math class. Yo, I'd pull my kids out in 2 seconds. 2 seconds. They say guardsmen and women take a temporary leave from their normal jobs after they are activated for a mission. Deployments vary, blah, blah, blah. Currently, there's more than 440,000 active members, with more than 334,000 in the Army National Guard and more than 106 in the Air National Guard. As of Monday, nearly 58,380 National Guard soldiers and airmen were activated in support of missions across the U.S. and overseas. New Mexico has 3,840 active members. A total of 79 soldiers and airmen were volunteering in classrooms across the state as of Monday, and about 9 others are scheduled to complete the credentialing process needed to teach. This is where we're going. It's not going to end with teachers. We're going to see custodians. We're already seeing nurses and doctors. They are slowly replacing the private sector with government-controlled authoritarian hierarchy. I mean, think about that. It's not just schools, hospitals, checkpoints. I mean, the National Guard is filling these roles. I want you to imagine what this means. You need to understand that the military is overtly hierarchical and authoritarian and communistic. No, hands down, it is. I mean, maybe it's a little bit more fascistic. And I'm not saying that means the country itself is fascist, but, just hear me out. For a while, the military was, more traditional. And traditional authoritarianism, authoritarian traditionalism, fascism, and authoritarian progressivism, communism. There you go, right? Or to varying degrees, that's kind of what it means. You have a system in place where you enlist, and now you do as you're told or else. Follow orders. You get a set amount of money, you get a set amount of food, everything is provided for you. I mean, it is rigid and authoritarian, period. Follow orders. Now, private sector jobs are being replaced by this. It's not going to be pretty when there is a monopoly, a government monopoly on all of these institutions. But here we go, baby. This is the way things are going. Now I want to show you the absurdity and the insanity of where we're headed because of COVID. Gayle King, host of CBS Mornings, she hosts CBS Mornings from the back of a van after testing positive for COVID alongside co-anchor Vlad Dudiers. But she says she's still hoping to go on vacation tomorrow following multiple negative tests. Gayle King, sitting in the back of a van. Look at that face. How creepy have things gotten? The reason I highlight this story in the context of the soldiers is because I really want to show you the absurdity and the decay that is occurring within our society. When you have TV hosts doing their jobs from the back of a van, I think we start asking questions about what's happening. When the National Guard is going to our schools, when mom and pop shops are being destroyed, when we experience the greatest transfer of wealth in human history, and Biden lies, every day another lie. I suppose many people would prefer to sit back and just be told what to do because it's easier. Weak men make hard times. And, hard times make strong men. The weak men and women leading our country and our countries and our civilization are burning everything to the ground. Now, maybe it's not on purpose. Maybe it's a natural progression of a decaying system. Maybe the reason that communism arises in these other countries is not because communists figure out how to stage a revolution. It's because the system buckled under the pressure of its failures and corruption. And this just results in overt authoritarianism in any capacity. I mean, look, Nazis or communists, I don't care. They're both bad. Some people argue one's worse than the other. That's probably because they're a communist or because they're a fascist or whatever. I think the communists have killed more people, but the communists did kill more communists, which is kind of weird. Anyway, my point is, when a system breaks down, hyperinflation, destruction, people look for answers. In Weimar Germany, you got the Nazi Party. In other countries, you get communism, Bolshevik revolution, things like that. It could be That the reason we're seeing the rise in what is probably communism is certainly there are communists who are pushing it, infiltrating, and trying to make it happen. But it could just be the natural progression of a decaying system, of a faltering system. Why is it the National Guard is coming in to teach in schools? Because they don't know what else to do. So they take the simple solution: military. Maybe that's how you end up with military teaching schools in these other countries that are communist. After the revolution, when the system was completely in decay, they said, who's going to do the job? Well, the people we can force to do the job, we can order to do the job, and the people who will just do the job. When you look at this story about CBS, and you see that this long-standing, wealthy millionaire of a woman, I'm assuming she's rich, is being told she must go do her job in a van. I mean, that's really weird. But it's probably the simplest sign of collapse, in my opinion, because of its sheer absurdity. Because we're outright like, you don't work in an office, you don't work in a TV studio, you work in a van. It's just something so absurd that it's indicative to me of the system falling apart. Well, here's what's going to happen. Eventually, there's going to be limited or no media, and you're going to be seeing calls for, publicly funded media, which they already have. And we've already seen the stories about, because of Joe Rogan, it's evidence that we need the state to intervene. The DHS has come out and said those who sow misinformation that spreads distrust in government are dangerous extremists. So how long until there's some justification for having the National Guard do news reports? They can say, well, misinformation is really dangerous and it's causing problems. So we're going to have, National Guardsmen fill in to do these news reports. After a few years, right now that might seem absurd, but have any of you ever expected that the National Guard would be teaching your children, that the military would be deployed? Granted, 79 people so far in this one state, but still. Did any of you think the National Guard would be out driving your kids' school buses? They're slowly taking over the education system. It's like, I look at that and I say it's only a matter of time until I'll put it this way. If the ultimate goal is a command economy, like communism, maybe not communism exactly, UBI makes a lot of sense. Everybody gets $1,000 a month. Nobody holds jobs. Nobody owns a business. The government sets the prices, and that means you can only buy certain things. You can only buy a certain amount. But if you like drinking milk more than eating bread, well, we gave you $1,000, and the milk costs $50 and the bread costs $50 because we control the prices. You can choose to buy 2 gallons of milk, 2 loaves of bread, or one of each. You have your freedom. What freedoms have you even lost? In fact, they're just giving you free stuff, right? And then who's working at that store? The National Guard. Because when the stores are shut down, maybe not anytime soon, but if we continue on a path like this, there's no more workers. And they say, but this is an essential job. What do? Someone's got to deliver the food. Someone's got to run the cash registers. How about the National Guard? I don't know if that's likely. I don't know if it's even probable. But I tell you this, you say it can't happen here, I say you are wrong. You say it won't happen here, I say you are absolutely wrong. That's optimism bias and normalcy bias. The normalcy bias is when people think it can't happen here because it never does. Everything's going to stay normal. And the optimism bias is it can't happen here because bad things aren't going to be happening to us. That's absurd. But here we go, man. The stupidest story in the world, putting an anchor in a van. And now we have the trucker convoys, which seem to be working, but is this just the rat hope experiment, right? I wonder. So I'll do this. Comment below. What other sectors do you think could easily be replaced right now by military? Because I'd be willing to bet utility services, the electric company, sewer work, plumbing, carpentry. What happens when there's no contractors, no construction workers, and people are like, look, our buildings are falling apart? Well, send in the National Guard. Now get this. When the economy is completely destroyed, because we're looking at this hyperinflation right now, and people can't find work. Before we get to that point of potential like UBI and total communism, people are going to say, how do I make money? Well, it's really simple. Enlist. And you have a wage. The easiest way to make money when there's no private sector would be to join the military to get paid, right? So maybe what happens is they'll say, we'll give you a UBI of $2,000 a month. If you want any more than that, enlist. Now, you could, of course, have any job you want. No one's stopping you from working. Oh, all those small businesses are completely gone? Well, that's too bad. Where are you going to work? You could always enlist. We could always use more National Guardsmen to help build roads, bridges, and buildings. That's a dangerous path that we're on, and I think we need to be absolutely resistant to it. We should not tolerate this kind of thing. If we need more private sector, not more public sector. If the teachers are gone, then the parents need to find teachers. The parents need to pay for them. But you see, the government is strangling everybody out. You're paying taxes for these schools by force. You are funding a system that's already not working. Think about it this way. If I have a Netflix subscription for, $15 a month or whatever the price is, and I don't have Netflix, but let's say I do. And then one day they're like, oh, by the way, all the shows are gone. I'd be like, well, then I will choose not to spend money on this. But then one day a guy shows up with a gun and says, you better pay us or else. That's basically what the government is doing here. They're saying you got to pay for schools. The schools are broken and not working. Too bad. We're going to send in the National Guard. And you have no right to object because it's just the way things have always been. I hope y'all are paying attention to the absurdity that we're experiencing. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. Over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you all then.